Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Can we start the meeting or shall we wait for more 2 minutes because already our time over. The students are going to join, more students. Or can we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So firstly, let us just remind the things what we have done in the last 3 lectures. We started by the set theory, all the preliminaries idea we took in the lectures, and then after we started this terminologies of the probability theory. What about the sample space, events, experiments, and deterministic experiment, random experiment we understand, and then after we discussed about the this then after I believe we have discussed about this algebra of the events also, right? So let us today understand the some more theory part, and then after we will be discussing about the Bayes theorem, right? Which is very important in respect of the classical approach of the probability. In the last class, I believe that we have just described the definition of mutually exclusive event. What is the meaning of the mutually exclusive event? What is that interpretation? Mutually exclusive event.
Ma'am, either this or
Yes?
either
Ma'am,
one
either
is
this or that.
the other.
Yeah. Can it be, can it occur simultaneously?
No,
No,
ma'am.
No,
No.
ma'am.
No. Okay. So what is the mathematically how we can define it?
intersection event
Intersection.
1, intersection event 2.
Yeah, intersection should be phi or a null set. And then after let us understand the meaning of the exhaustive event. Okay, mutually exclusive event, it means the intersection of these two events should be phi. It means they cannot occur simultaneously. If two events which are not able to occur simultaneously, that is known as the mutually exclusive event. Very simple example we took, that if we are rolling a die, that the even numbers and the odd numbers cannot occur simultaneously, right? Because if we have all equally likely probabilities for happening of each number, so in that case, so let's define now the exhaustive events. I'm going to share the whiteboard with you. Can you see the whiteboard? Please confirm. All of you are able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So let's define today the exhaustive events. The events A1, the general definition I'm writing over here. Events A1, A2 up to AN of the sample space S are said to be collectively exhaustive events of the sample space if they include all possible events Mathematically, we can understand it that the union of all these such events should be equal to the sample set itself, like A1 union A2 union up to AN should be equal to S. Or mathematically, sometimes it is written like I is equals to 1 to N AI should be equal to S only. This is in the summation form. So this is the basic difference between the exhaustive events and the mutually exclusive event. Mutually exclusive means the intersection of those should be equal to 5. And for the exhaustive events, if we make the union of all these events, then we should get the sample set itself. So here let us understand some of the small examples, basic examples, so we can differentiate both the things, exhaustive and mutually exclusive. I am taking one of the simple example. Through this, we will try to understand all these concepts. If we are throwing a die or the rolling a die, in that case, rolling a dice, we have the sample space as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay. Here even I put 1, 3, 6, 1, 3 and 5. 1, 3, 5, E2, 2, 6, E3, 1, 2, 3, E4, 3, 4, 5, 6, E5, 4, 5, E6, 6. Okay, I defined here 6 number of the different kind of elements, events. Okay, E1, E2, E3, E4, E5 and E6. Now I'm going to define the relation between all these regarding the exhaustive and exclusive. So we need to understand here that E1 intersection E2 is equals to 5. Okay, so what is that? E1 and E2 is the mutually exclusive event. This thing we did in the last lecture as well. But similarly, and even union E2, if you do, then you are getting the sample set itself. It means these are exhaustive as well. On the other way, if I do E1 intersection E4, E3 intersection E4, what is that? We are getting 3, which is not equal to 5. It means not a mutually exclusive event. But E3 union E4 is equals to S. So it means these are exhaustive. And the same concept we may write for the others like E4, E5, E6, or we may write E3, E5, E6. Can you give the other relationship for the other events like E3, E5, E6? Are these mutually exclusive?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
exhaustive. Also exhaustive.
Absolutely right. So now you can understand one thing, because the students get confused only in one thing here. Please note down that this is not necessary always that exhaustive events are mutually exclusive as well. It's not completely necessary. Okay, maybe possible this is only exhaustive. It means if you make the union of that, you are getting the S. Like here, E3 and E4 were exhaustive event, but they were not the mutually exclusive. E3, E5, E6, these are mutually exclusive as well as exhaustive. E1, E2 are mutually exclusive as well as exhaustive. E3, E4 not mutually exclusive but exhaustive. So like that you can make many more combinations, and now you can define the interrelationship among these itself regarding the exhaustive and the mutually exclusive events. Now I believe this thing is clear. If you have any doubt, please let me know. I'll describe it again. Is it clear to all of you? If you have any doubt, please raise your hand and ask here. Any one of you?
मैम तो इससे हमें ये पता चलता है कि म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव और एग्जॉस्टिव इवेंट्स के बीच में कोई डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन कभी नहीं है.
No, not at all. Not at all. That they may have their own characteristics. Okay, it's not necessary if the events are mutually exclusive, they will be exhaustive. No. If they are exhaustive, they will be mutually exclusive. No, not completely. It depends upon the particular set event itself. Is it clear?
Give another example for exhaustive.
exhaustive. Okay, let's see here. Can I go for the next board? If you all have written it, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. If S was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. If I define E can say E, because we have already taken up to 6 over there. So let's say this is 7. E7 is the element which are greater than or equal to 3. Okay, so it is like suppose 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay. Similarly, E8 I define x which is less than equals to 3. So here we have 1, 2 and 3. So what you are observing? E7 intersection E8. What are these? This is equals to 5 or what?
And 3.
3, which is not equals to 5. So that's why this is not mutually exclusive. Okay, but here if you see E7 union E8, what you are getting? The set itself, the sample set itself, right? So this is what these are exhaustive. Now I believe this thing is clear to you. It's not necessary always that if two events are mutually exclusive, they are exhaustive, or it's not necessary if it is exhaustive, they will be always mutually exclusive. It depends upon the events itself. We should know the characteristics of mutually exclusive and exhaustive. These definitions should be clear to us itself. That's it. Is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Next is equally likely event. If two events have same chances of occurrence, then these are known as the equally likely events. Okay, very simple example. If we toss a coin, then we have a equally chances to get head and equal chances to get tail. Okay, so what we say, getting head and getting tail, both are the equally likely event. Similarly, if we are rolling a dice, then getting 1, getting 6, getting even number, both are the equally likely events. Similarly, getting even numbers or getting odd numbers in a case of rolling a die, that is also a equally likely events, condition of the equally likely events. Is it clear, this definition, the meaning of it, equally likely?
Ma'am, is it necessary for it to be 2 events or it can be more than 2 events?
More than 2. Here I'm taking the example of 2 events. If they have the same chances, are known as the equally likely. Suppose here if I have S is equals to the case of the rolling a dice, हमारे पास था 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? If I define E1 to get 1, 2. If I say E2, 3, 4. If I say E3, 5, 6. So what do you understand? Get the happening of E1, happening of E2 and happening of E3. They have same chances? Yes?
Ma'am, what exactly is E1? What, I mean 1, 2, are we throwing the dice twice or what?
Means getting, no. Getting, whenever we are throwing a dice once, getting 1 or 2 like this. So what is that? E1. If I'm getting 3 or 4, that is E2. Getting 5 or 6, that is E3. So what you are getting? यहाँ आपके पास इसको आप individual भी बना सकते हैं. Like 1, 2, getting 2 event, getting 3, getting 4. So what are you understanding? Getting 6. If we have these individual one, then also to get 1, to get 2, to get 3, 4, 5, 6, they have the same chances to get turn up. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Could you explain this example one more time?
If I'm saying I'm rolling a dice, then getting 1 has the same chance to get 6.
Yeah, 1 by 6. Okay.
Yeah, because each individual event has same chance to get to turn up, right? Isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, whenever any events, more than 2 as well, if they have same chances of occurrence, are known as the equally likely events. It means if they have here I'm not using the word probability because we have not started the definition. Here we are using only the term of chances. If they have same chances of occurrence, those events are known as the equally likely event. When we toss the coin, then also head or tail आने का जो हमारा occurrence होता है, chances होते हैं, then those are also known as equally likely, because if we have an unbiased coin, then if we are tossing it, maybe head, maybe tail, we have 2 probabilities, that's it. So that's why whenever within the 2 events or more than 2 events, if the chances of the occurrence of that particular one is equal, those events are known as the equally likely events. और अभी हम आगे देखेंगे कि when we find their probability, those probabilities should always be equal, right? Because these are equally likely events. I believe this part is clear to all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Partition of the sample space. Before describing the definition, I am giving you a diagram. Through that we can understand it. Okay. Suppose we have a S set or the sample set. हम कह सकते हैं sample set है. Okay. And out of this sample set, we have n number of the events like this. This partition I described in the set theory also, if you remember. The same theory we are now applying for the events. Okay. Like A1, A2, these are the events. Of course, these are the subsets of S. Different kind of the events in S. Now, what we are observing? We are observing if we make the union of these like A1 union A2 up to AN, then what we are getting? The set itself. Like A1 union A2 union A3 union AN, what we are getting? The set itself. Apart it, there is no overlapping between any of the 2 events. There is no such kind of the value which is overlapped among their self. So what we are mathematically writing here, if A1 intersection A2 intersection A3 up to the AN equals to 5, there is no common point in it. So this was the condition of mutually exclusive. This is the condition of the exhaustive. If these 2 conditions are getting satisfied for such kind of the combination of these events, then the set of the events like A1, A2, A3 up to AN are known as the partition of S. So 2 conditions यहाँ आपको देखना है. फर्स्ट कंडीशन है म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव होने चाहिए, along with the exhaustive. तो हमने छोटा सा एग्जांपल वहां लिया भी था if we have, suppose S is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So if I say even EE is equals to for 2, 4, 6 and E1, E odd, okay, 1, 3, 6. So what we are getting, this EE and EO both are the partition over the S. Not only that, if you see your previous example, I have defined many cases there in which 2 or 3 events were mutually exclusive as well as the exhaustive. So those cases are known as the partition over that sample space, sample set, or we can say partition of the S. Are you understanding this? If you want to ask something over here, please let me know. Please let me know if you want to ask something over here.
Could you explain your last part again one more time?
Yeah, here what we are observing, these two things, this condition is known as the exhaustive and this is known as the mutually exclusive. If these two conditions are getting satisfied for any of the n number of the events in a set, it is known as the partition of set. Simple सा, जब भी हम partition की बात कर रहे हैं तो एक simple image हमारे mind में होनी चाहिए. If we have a S set and there are many number of the events or subset which are not getting overlap to each other, so and if we make union of that, you are getting the set itself, and if we are making the intersection of it, you will be getting phi. There is no overlapping among each other. This thing, if this image is clear to you, you can understand, you can have a better idea of the partition of a sample space, I believe. Is it clear? This diagram is clear? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now let's move towards the probabilities theory and its classical approach. Classical approach to probability. If an experiment, please note down its definition, if an experiment consists of its n exhaustive, capital N exhaustive, mutually exclusive, equally likely outcomes and out of which small n are favorable to the happening of an event A, then the probability of A is given by P A is equals to number of favorable cases upon total number of the cases. So we may write over here small n upon capital N, because capital N we are taking as the total number of the cases. This was the probability of happening of A, right? And similarly, if I want to write the probability of That is probability of A bar, that is the non-occurrence of A, is given by what is the chances, favorable cases for non-occurrence of A is
1 minus P of A.
Yes. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. All of you are requested so that the others can listen properly. So this is the case for the non-occurrence of A. If I say the probability of happening of A, if I say this is equals to small p, okay, and the non-happening of A is Q, then if I believe that this is the success for me, if I say this is success, and this is a failure, then always the P plus Q should always be equal to 1. Okay, so therefore, if here we are defining small p as the probability of the success and small q is the probability of the failure. Not only that, because when now if I'm saying p plus q equals to 1, that the probability of happening of A plus probability of non-happening of A should always be equals to 1. So we should understand as small n upon a capital N is a fraction. Okay. So we have always the probability should always be lying between 0 and 1. It may be 0 also, equal to 0 also. That is the case when that was the case of fully failure, and P equals to 1, that was the case of certainty. Okay, so here some basic classical approach, classical definition of the probability we have discussed. So this is a very basic definition what we all assume whenever the cases are mutually exclusive exhaustive events. In those cases we are supposed to use this classical approach directly. So like that, if I'm saying in the case of throwing a dice, so we understand that for that example, if I'm saying E1 is 1, E2 is 3, E4 is 1, 3 and 5. So what is that? Probability of E1. Probability of E1 become what? Probability of E1 become
1 by 6.
Yes, absolutely. And probability of E2 is equals to what? 1 by 6. So E1 and E2 are equally likely events or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. What about the probability of E4?
Ma'am, 1 by 2.
Because here we write 3 by 6, so this is equals to 1 by 2, right? So we can say getting even numbers, the event where we are getting even numbers, that is equally likely to the E4 events. Like there also we are getting the probability as 1 by 2. So these are the simple cases where we can apply the classical approach of the probability. In the beginning, this approach was very useful, but we have a limitation. Limitation is like the characteristic of the events, right? This should be exhaustive, mutually exclusive. So these kind of the conditions always applied whenever we are using the classical approach. So I believe this definition is clear. Can we go for some laws of the probability to assumptions of the to see the assumptions of the probability? Can we move forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The assumptions of the probability. If here we are assuming that S is a sample space, A is any event, so therefore always the probability of the occurrence of A will be lying from 1 to 1, 0 to 1. Basically this is the number. Probability of A is the numerical value which always be lying from 0 to 1. Probability of the sample space is always 1. That is, the probability of happening of the whole sample space is certain. So that's why this is equals to 1. Third, if A and B are two mutually exclusive events, that is, if A intersection B is equals to 5, then the probability of the other event, which is defined as A union B, the probability of A union B is equals to probability of A plus probability of B. We can extend it up to the n or n number of the events, but this assumption only we can implement when the condition of mutually exclusive event is getting satisfied. If it is not, then we have an addition theorem, and that addition theorem we will be taking in the next. Here I am defining one more thing, please note down. That is odds in favor of an event A. In some of the book it's not given, so you may please note down it. Odds in favor of an event A. This is basically a number and it is defined as probability of A upon probability of A bar. Basically this is the value or a number which equals to the probability of A divided by the probability of non-occurrence of A. Simply we may write P by Q, or you may write a small p upon 1 minus p, because p plus q equals to 1. So for the q we may write 1 minus p. So if you know the probability of happening of an event A, we will be able to find out the odds in favor of that event A. So this is basically a numeral value. Now we are going to define the laws of the probability. If you have written, can I move for the next board? Please tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Laws of the probability. I am writing here some of the laws which are very useful in the numerical problem, and even not only the numerical problem, to understand the concept also. Okay. The probability of impossible event . Phi is 0 always, or we can understand mathematically as P phi is always 0. Second point, if A is any event, then probability of non-occurrence of A, or we may write the complement of A. Sometimes in some of the books they write AC as well. This is equals to 1 minus PA. So if you know the probability of occurrence of A, then we will be able to find out the probability of complement of A as well. Then I'm going to define the law of addition, okay, because the earlier assumption what we studied, there was a condition that the event should be mutually exclusive, but if it is not, then which law we are supposed to use? This is known as the law of addition. Addition of probability. This is very useful law, that is, if A and B are any two events of a sample space S, then the probability of A union B is given as probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. Now if A and B are mutually exclusive events, so in that case it refers to the last assumption what we studied, but that was the condition when we have the mutually exclusive cases. This is about the two events. We can extend it up to the three events also. If we have three events, then what is the law of addition says? If we have three events, then it says probability of A union B union C. If we have three events A, B and C, then it is given as probability of A plus probability of B plus probability of C plus minus probability of A intersection B minus probability of B intersection C minus probability of A intersection C plus probability of A intersection B intersection C. This is a similar kind of the concept we have here as we studied in the case of principle of inclusion and exclusion. There we were using the cardinal number, and here we are using the probability of that event. So that's why we have supposed to take care when we are using the inclusion exclusion principle and when we are using the law of addition. This is the extension of the law of addition for the three events. Similarly, we can extend it up to the n number of the events. So please understand here this part, if this part is 5, if it is mutually exclusive, then this part becomes 0, and in that case PA union B equals to PA plus BB. So we have to understand the general assumption is this, okay, and mutually exclusive condition is the particular case of this law of addition. Always please note down PA plus PB should always be greater than PA union B. And if B is the subset of A, it means the set A has more elements, like B is the subset of A, then probability of B is less than equals to probability of A. Okay. So these are some small assumptions which help us to understand any of the problem which comes in front of us in form of the numericals or in form of any of the distribution problem. So firstly, these terms, this addition law, the concept, this small terminology should be very clear to us, because when the numerical problem come to us, then these terms will come directly, and these terms will be there directly, right? In the these conditions will be applicable over the events. So as per the conditions given to us in the numerical problem, we can apply these laws. If these mutually exclusive have events, तो उस केस में intersection B 5 हो जाएगा, PA intersection B 0 हो जाएगा, then PA union B equals to PA plus PB, and similarly we can extend it up to the more events. So this was about the law of addition and some assumptions, but more part like conditional probability, क्योंकि अभी हमने जो लिया cases, वो कैसा cases लिया? हमने लिया कि एक event जो था वो दूसरे event से बिल्कुल अलग था ना, they were not they were not intersecting to each other, or I should say they were not interrupting to each other, right? But what happened when the probability of the happening of one event is affecting with the condition of happening of the other event? So in those cases we have to come out with the condition of classical approach. We have to move towards the conditional probability. So we will be understanding the basic concept of the conditional probability in the next lecture. But up to that, please let me know if you have any doubt. Ask. You may please ask if you have any doubt up to it. Is it clear to all of you, these assumptions? These laws are clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this was for today's lecture. So let's in the next lecture I'm going to take the conditional probability, the meaning of the conditional probability, the multiplication laws, where to use the multiplication laws, and along with that the meaning of the independent event, what is the mathematical condition of the independent events, plus Bayes rule and Bayes theorem. Okay, so these things we are going to take in our next class. We will be completing this part up to the Bayes theorem in the next class. So I'm signing off. Take care all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Take care.